Good day, and here we are again. This is ConverQuestion, and this is your Professor, Prof Jon, hosting this program. And it will be another day of fruitful conversation and, of course, questioning and getting more information from our resource and also from our guest for today. Yan. I hope that you have liked and you have watched our past shows, programs that we have broadcast here, mga ka-best friend, dito sa ating tambayan to facilitate conversation and questioning, of course, with our main resource that will give us several important and significant information about what they have been doing. Pero ito po ay may kinalaman din sa ating buhay. Hindi po ito something that we will be doing just to know the technicalities of life. But of course, how do we really appreciate life? Ayun po. And for this day po, ang ating naimbitahan po, salamat po at nabigyan tayo. Dahil ang mga kasama po natin ngayon ay isa pong kababayan po natin, but she is really into writing, journalism, and book authoring. And she has been doing this for the past years. Our resource and guest for today is a freelance writer and a journalist. She started her career with the foreign news agencies in the 1980s, and she has produced her first book on the military in 1991. And then she went on to journalism fellowship in France in 1992, actually for 6 years before returning to Manila in 2006. Now she is in Frankfurt, Germany, and also continuing her passion, writing, storytelling, and giving us important accounts that we know in history, of course, in the book. So hindi ko na po tatagalin ang ating pong guest for this day sa ating ConverQuestions na anaradan, si Miss Criselda Yabes. Hello, Miss Criselda.
Hello, good morning dito
Hello,
from
yes.
Frankfurt. It's the last day of the Frankfurt Book Fair. The place is almost empty, but there's still people going around looking for books that are on sale.
Wow. 'Di ba? At talagang yung kanyang environment ngayon is what she's really doing. And ma'am, you are now in the book fair and you are promoting, or you are there also for your present books po ba?
Yeah, yes. Yesterday I was in a talk with two other authors, one from Singapore and one from India, and we were talking about what it's like being a female writer in our respective countries. Pero basically, nandito ako sa booth ng Philippine booth. So it's not just my book, it's also the books of other Filipino authors that are here. And it's a mixture, it's a combination of many genres. So nandun yung novels, graphic, books about romance, about mystery, about fantasy, art, So it's not just my books, it's also the books of other writers, Filipino writers.
How does it feel being part of the Filipino community? Of course, presenting, launching your books as compared also to other international writers that you're doing right now, Ma'am Chris?
That's kind of hard for me to say kasi, first, of course, as a group, it gives us pleasure, especially now that we've been, how do I say this? The National Book Development Board, the country itself, Philippines, was able to get the guest of honor slot in Frankfurt for 2025. So I think there's a lot of excitement now, building things up and trying to get things done so that it will all be ready by 2025.
Wow. All right. Ma'am, in the modern technology po ngayon, we are in the advent of technology, social media, the internet, the online world. How do we make a different approach on books, and how do we really promote it to potential readers and even to those who are really parang hindi na ako ata masyado nagbabasa ng libro dahil parang gusto ko na lang mag-browse na lang sa internet, social media. How do we what can you say about this kind of situation right now?
Okay, that's a little okay. First of all, I'm not much of a social media person. My Facebook, I've decided to discipline myself. For example, my Facebook, I would only use it like during the weekends, maybe just 1 hour, 2 hours. Um, on Instagram, nagpo-post lang ako ng basically travel photos. So, I'm trying to be more disciplined. I'm not into social media always.
Okay.
I don't use it as a tool. Some people tell me that I should because I'm a writer and I should promote my books, but I just let the others do it. I don't do it myself. I mean, if they like my books, they're free to say anything, write anything about it. And if they don't, that's also okay. So I am basically withdrawn from it. Yeah.
Gusto ko pong isa sa mga gusto kong simulang pong itanong sa inyo, which I think we'll really learn from it. Which was your deepest motivation, or maybe how did it spark from you that's book authoring and writing
Um,
for?
I think it's always been there. It's always been there. My grandfather was a professor in English sa UP, and in his house he had like tons of magazines, tons of books. So it's always been there. When I read, I also had this desire that I wish I could write, stories the way that, and enjoy, and have people enjoy reading them the way I enjoy reading. So it was never really doubt in my mind that I wanted to write and I wanted to gather stories. Kaya nung pumunta ako sa university, journalism kaagad ako ng degree kasi nga my aim was to get stories on the ground and write about it.
I think one of the things that I saw in your work, you've been dealing with true to life stories, no, from our Filipino community and from different parts of the world, and especially in the Philippines. And you've been retelling stories, like for example, what happened in the typhoon Yolanda. You've been
Mm.
into the tragedy in the Mindanao. So why did you choose this kind of stories, Miss Chris?
It's really all by accident, if I can call it that. Kasi I grew up in Zamboanga City. So when I was growing up, I saw the refugee. We lived right in front of the air base, so I saw soldiers coming in and out. So I guess when I grew up, I wanted to dig more into that. And then plus, after the EDSA revolution, you had a series of coup attempts, and I was a newbie. I was just a young journalist at that time, and that was what I had to cover. So it was a combination of covering the military a lot and having my desire to know more about the Mindanao issue. Kaya yun. I mean, it's not as if I chose it.
Uh-huh.
In a way, it was kind of like given to me in the sense that I was there, at that moment, and I guess it turned out that that was the story I had to write. Pero full circle na ako kasi nga nag-umpisa ako with writing about the coup attempts in the 1980s with the military, and then I also uh, around 2020, I also finished the book on the Battle of Marawi.
Yeah.
So that's also about the military in Mindanao. So parang full circle na ako. Ang feeling ko parang okay, natapos ko na yung kailangan kong isulat tungkol sa military at sa Mindanao. And there are other writers, younger journalists who have, more stories to tell about the big changes in our country going on. Kaya,
Is doing your journalism work until now, or even for quite some time, would that be also a takeoff for you to write these books? And how did you combine using journalism
uh,
and book authoring?
well, yeah, basically it is kind of like a takeoff because as you know, when you write journalism and when you're writing stories, it's you can't really put in everything that you see and that you feel and that you've observed kasi nga it's limited to 500 words, 1,000 words, 1,500 words, and we don't even have a magazine that allows us to do long form journalism. So in a sense, yung ginawa ko parang long form journalism na humaba ng humaba that turned into a book. Because we don't have an outlet for that. We don't have an outlet. Back home, we don't have an outlet for long form journalism.
Parang, were you more fulfilled when you do authoring books and writing for books. Baka po pag nag full-time journalist kayo, baka hindi nyo magawa yung full content na gusto yung sabihin.
Um,
Like writing for
Process,
books.
yeah, process siya. It's a process because you start out as a journalist, a young journalist, so you're made to do the basic stories first. You write the spot news, and then eventually you're asked to do some feature stories. And over a period of time, you become more knowledgeable about the issues that you're writing about. You're not as scared anymore to say what you think, what you feel, um, and you're able to see, you're able to have a different perspective. So phases siya. So it comes to a point where, okay, now I'm ready to write a book about it. So yun, it goes in stages, and it's a natural process.
So how do you integrate reportage and literature in what you've been doing po?
I think literature comes with you loving books. I mean, I love books. I love reading novels. I love dramas. I love the talking about the ironies of life, the paradoxes of life. So, yun ang ini-integrate ko. Like things I cannot really say in journalism, for example, because everything has to be written in a straightforward manner. So, you can't really describe the air, the feel, the sound all the time because you're limited to a few words. Whereas if you're writing books, you can dwell into the atmosphere of things. You can be more specific about what you think of this person, the person that you're talking about. So yun, I think that's how you combine it,
Yeah.
essentially. Oo.
And
Oo.
it's I think it's parang iba yung feeling na kaya mo siyang combine at lagyan ng tamang mixture in
Oo,
writing, di
yun.
ba?
Oo, oo. So kasama na yun doon. Siguro yung background ko lang is yun nga. I like reading novels. So I become more aware of the technique of storytelling, when to put the right things, the right moments, the right drama into certain paragraphs. So yun, it's that. You have to read a lot to be able to understand what storytelling is. So I think one of the important things I want to say is that really between looking, scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, I would really just rather be at home in my bed reading a nice book. I mean, of course, I like doing this. Like if I go on Instagram, that's where I order things, And when I see little events, from about your favorite celebrities and stuff like that. I mean, that's just to unburden things. When you're tired, you just don't want to have to think, and that's okay. But to me, I mean, when I'm talking about quality time, I would really prefer to just have to be reading a very good book.
Wow. Siguro last question before we take a break. You've been
Okay.
a very high profile correspondent for Associated Press and Newsweek. Were the stories in the Philippines potentially the Marcos regime, the Aquino regime, and even the Mindanao were so impactful to you? The reason why these are your inspiration or maybe your motivation to put it into a book,
Yes,
Chris?
of course, because I come from a time when this was in 1985, and that was just the beginning of the end of the dictatorship, and then we had a new democracy. So for me, that was a bright shining light of our history, of being able to change our country without spilling blood. Which unfortunately today people don't want to remember, people want to change, and people want to deny that it ever happened. So that's the sad part for me today, but I was very lucky and I was very privileged that I was there. And it's very compelling, and we were the favorite of the world. We were,
Yeah.
people were looking at us, people
Yeah.
were watching us, people were praising us, because we were able to do something that other countries weren't able to do.
We will just have a very short break. Pagbalik po natin, Ma'am Chris, we invited some people. We'll be having some people to be with us, to interact with us. Pagbalik po ng ating ConverQuestion, we'll be back after some words from our friends.
Nandiyan na pala kayo mga best friend. Di ba lahat bago na eh.
Oo,
Kaya huwag tayo
oo,
pumunta
sakto.
dyan.
Politics, no? Mamaya na yan.
Huwag tayo-
Another podcast, pwede mo ako tawagan sa politics.
Ito pa rin tayo sa ating coffee time. Yan, yung sponsor natin yan. Kung saan si best friend Ren. Yan, sponsor ni Ren.
Nandito pa rin tayo sa ating tambayang may programa.
TTPM Act, our advocacy channel.
Oh, napabangoy kape?
Napabangoy kape? May kape pa ba kayo?
Tuloy na natin ang Coffee with Best Friend Tofi and me.
Ituloy na natin ang Coffee with Best Friend Sophie and me.
Coffee with best friend Sophie and me.
Coffee with Best Friend Tofi with me.
Padayon sa tapangape. Naapa si best friend Tofi, oh. Best friend Tofi, hello!
Guten Tag! Ako po ang inyong Consul General dito sa Frankfurt, Marie Yvette Banzon Avalos. Tayo ay nandito po ngayon sa tambayang may programa para sa mga Filipino at Filipino-Germans, TTPM Act, our advocacy channel. Tara, OL na tayo!
Tara, OL tayo.
And we're back here at ConverQuestion with Miss Criselda Yabes. And para po sa portion na to, sa segment na ito, we'll be ushering in some guests from our Filipino community who have somehow very similar experience and of course have the same wavelength as what we are talking here. Una ko pong ipakilala ay isa pong communication arts graduate from La Consolacion College, Manila. She is now into digital marketing. She's a digital marketing specialist creating content. O di ba ngayon, pinag-uusapan natin ngayon, content. No? So how is that far from what we are doing in book authoring? I'd like to introduce you, Miss Bernice Biando. Hi, Bernice. Ayan po siya.
Hello. Hi.
Okay, so be with us and I hope you can help us in facilitating some questions para din sa ating discussion yan. And our second guest, ito po, special po itong ating second guest po because same with Miss Chris, he is himself an author. We have been mentioning him in our programs because he is one of the sought after Filipino author then who has written a very important book about science fiction. And now he'll be with us to share also his point of view, his perspective about book authoring. Alright. Pakilala po natin ang ating mga kasama ngayon, si Mr. Renato Tranquilino. Sir Renato, hello.
Howdy.
Ayan po.
Hey,
So,
Bernice.
apat na po tayo ngayon mag-uusap-usap. I hope you have heard po yung aming naging usapan kanina. How would you like to pitch some question or something that we can discuss? Please, here natin si Bernice, you have something to ask or something that you would like to add in what we are discussing?
Yeah, first things first, hello po, Mr. Renato and Ms. Criselda. As well as Sir John, of course, my professor. Well, I'm a writer po. Aside from being a digital marketing specialist, I've been writing with my team for 3 social media, how do you say this? Like a social media company. So I would like to ask lang po, as an aspiring writer here in the Philippines naman, aside from, of course, working with other companies outside of the Philippines, how would you say po for various up-and-coming platforms, how do you think book authoring and journalism is beneficial, of course, in the idea of doing modern day storytelling po?
Okay, Ma'am Chris, would you like
Yeah.
to answer that?
Renato, maybe Renato would like to start first because you're
Okay,
more into
sir.
social media, and I'm like, I'm Jurassic. I'm old-fashioned when it comes to these things.
I mean, I don't think Chrissy is that much older than me, but like we're almost the same age. So I'm a little bit, as using Chrissy's term, I'm a little bit Jurassic when it comes to social media as well. But here's what I found with social media. It enables me to reach out to specifically journalists to promote my book. It allowed me to promote like certain aspects of my book, but certainly like marketing has been a little bit easier with social media. And as far as writing, like with the introduction now of Chat GPT, you find that it's an effective tool in terms of say checking your work or like enhancing your work. It gives you it's another tool that you can use in terms of improving your writing style. It's not perfect, but it certainly is like very handy right now. So people are familiar with Grammarly, which is the grammar checking stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Chat GPT kind of takes it to a new level. For instance, press releases. So it used to take me 3 hours to write like press releases about my book and have it checked by 8 letters team and all that. Now it takes me about less than half an hour to generate one, and then everyone just like in 8 letters. So things like that, like it just hastens the process in terms of producing quality marketing stuff out there. And so yeah, so that's my take on social media. Like if in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you.
I
Yes, Miss Chris.
Yeah.
Miss Chris.
Yeah,
Yes, po.
I was gonna say I've never tried using AI. I have never even dared to use chat
Chat
whatever
GPT. Yeah, yeah.
chat GPT.
And the like. Yeah, opo.
And I hated Grammarly. I hated a friend when I asked a friend to edit my work. He edited it first with Grammarly and Express. The words, the turn of phrases went out the window, and I said, forget it. It's a real editor. An edit because the lifeline of a journalist is to have a good editor and an editor that you trust.
Without the
would know the
without the
story.
artificial intelligence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's for me. And when it comes to writing press, si Renata, sa sending out the social media stuff on his book. His publisher is with me right now.
Oh.
We've been
Hello.
together, and
Yeah.
we've been talking about it because we were staying, and we've been talking about it. And I was just telling her, please don't let me stand up and hold my book. Let somebody else do it for me, because it's really gonna look so fake to promote my book because I don't know if I'm shy, but I just cringe. So I'd rather have someone do it. And so Cindy is suggesting that she would get someone to do it for me. Not me myself would do it, because I honestly would feel like time sitting, thinking, reflecting about the stories I want to tell. About how am I going to promote this? What will I do this? And how will I can't. First of all, social media creatures. So if you're not one, it's not going to work. If you love social media, it's going to work. And it's been working for some of the writers. That's wonderful. Once somebody did a TikTok on me. I didn't do it. Some of my friends were like, "Oh, you did it!
Yeah.
You did it! You did it!" But I didn't do it. Somebody else did.
Somebody else
surprised
did
that
it for
I
you.
did it. Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
you know, I
Opo.
have nothing against it if people do it, but me myself doing it, uh, it, hindi sa hindi ko kaya. Kaya ko kung gusto ko. Pero ang sa isip ko lang, no,
Hindi talaga.
I would
It's
rather
not
do
part of
something.
the vocabulary.
Yes, I would rather do something. What for me, what I myself would consider substantial. I would rather
Okay.
go out on long walks. I would rather go biking for 20, 30 kilometers than think about how am I going to do this on Instagram or Facebook. Like I said, I'm old school. Kaya sorry.
Yeah, speaking of old school, I think I've been there, and although I've not revealed my age, but I've been to that time wherein people don't depend on technology, and we did research without the help of the electronic media or the digital media, and we research, and we can smell the odor of books from the library, the paper and everything that you will be looking at, how heavy the books are. I think I've been to that period. No, siguro ngayon ibang-iba na po ang mundo. Pero still, I would like to believe that books today is it's a combination of what the authors have been doing before. It is also a time for us to adapt to this. Siguro po, adding to what Bernice was saying, how do we catch up with the new generation, especially if we present or launch our books? Ma'am Chris, how do we catch up to the present generation po?
I think it's one that's my way of catching up with the present generation. For example, the dystopia novella, it's set in the 2030s. Man who survived the drug war, her father was killed in the driver, and she ends up being the leader of an army of orphans in the now, and Manila is sinking. And I put in my country, and if we're going to lose our country, what would it mean for us to start? For me, that's with the new generation, because more or less me saying, what kind of a future do you want, for your country? It's your it's the younger gen's call
Yeah.
to determine the kind of future we want to have. So to me, it's that that links it to the younger generation, and not so as a tool. So my tool would be my own writing, my literature. It's that.
Yeah.
Tapos also, I did a tiny romance novella, which is also
Yeah.
which talks about love in a more not in a level. So that's it. And at some point, again, because I want people to know that it happened. This is your history, and don't let people tell you that it.
Okay. All right. Speaking of, parang may konting there I saw somehow a different polls for the books that Miss Chris was writing. She would deal on important moments of history, while si Sir Renato naman, yung kanyang book, Fate of a Distant Future, about futuristic naman, diba, sir? Sir Renato, is that your way of catching up, or is that your way also of looking to what the new generation can look up to in the future? Sir Renato, how do you say it? Future, about futuristic naman, diba, sir? Sir Renato, is that your way of catching up, or is that your way also of looking to what the new generation can look up to in the future? Sir Renato, how do you say it?
My writing is more of a progressive but cautionary tale for when we enter the space race, or space colony years. what I'm trying to say in my book is basically you can't just keep thinking the way we think. We have to be a little bit more scientifically oriented for when we actually go off into like off world. The reason being is the dangers that are there will multiply the number of dead if if we make the same mistakes that we do now whilst we still have in an oxygen based environment. And so I guess it's more of a warning, like okay, these are the sort of things that you may want to consider as we go forward into the future. I mean, 2,000 years, 3,000 years ahead. These are the likely things that you may encounter. So better to be aware now and then make the change as we go forward, and that includes, of course, the type of leaders that you put in place in a country. People that um, be willing to take the risk and go against what the world order is trying to make us do, but do it, but go against that in a sense of putting Philippine values first.
Oh, okay.
Like, which
Yeah.
is, it's a bit hard coming from like from
Tatak Pinoy. Tak Pinoy pa rin.
more like, well, what is ours, to make our lives better, not everyone else's, like that kind of thing. A little bit selfish, but I mean, hey, we've always been kind of like the breadbasket for a lot of the first world countries. Let's take Spain, America, Britain to some a little bit, for a little time. And so, I guess it's more, the book kind of challenges the reader to, hey, what if you try and think this way? What would that do for us? So that's a kind of angle I'm kind of that I have on my book.
I think that's something, something hindi naman peculiar, pero something maybe not very typical to other books, no? Kasi I think Sir Renato has been authoring a genre in science fiction that may not be very ordinary or typical to Filipino authors, no?
It's not.
Diba? Kaya nga,
It's not.
very interesting. A Filipino author is right here doing a science fiction book of futuristic book. No? And now, here is it. If you want to see and witness and somehow look at from the accounts of history, here's a book that can present you that kind of idea or theory. Sir Renato, I'm sorry, I've no idea po if you have read all the books or of Miss Chris or vice versa naman po. Meron pa ba kayong gustong i-share about your thoughts about the books that Miss Criselda has authored? And if you still have some thoughts about it, maybe you can share it with us here, and maybe Miss Criselda can also share something about it. Sir Renato?
I think Chris's book, Battle of Marawi, I've been that's one of the books that I'm supposed to read, like, because I actually briefly cover a bit of that in my urban fantasy book. So
Okay.
it's a must read if you want to get into in depth like info on what happened there. So I kind of wrote a twist on that battle. So it's something that I'm going to read, like this holidays are coming up. So yeah, for anyone who's looking for a good read of a book, like, get Miss Criselda Yabes book, Battle of Marawi. So
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Author to author, Miss Chris and Mr. Renato, is something that you would like to share in common or ask something from each other? Maybe you can do it now here. This is a right time to ask questions.
I mean, I've asked her so many things when I met her in 2022. So like I guess with Chris, what's next for you, Mike? Like, I mean, you've written a somewhat sci-fi 2030s book. So what's in the pipeline?
Chris, would you like to answer
okay.
that
This
po?
is one of the topics that we talked about yesterday. As a writer, I normally don't like talking about what I'm working on. I'm
Okay.
Sorry.
superstitious. I'm
Sorry for that.
kind of
Give us a hint.
superstitious, but right a hint. Okay, right now on two things. One is not so related to the Philippines, but the other to, well, something with our history. I think I talked a little bit about that kanina. Yun.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's
cool.
not. It has
All
nothing to do with, Renato. I'm not gonna do sci. I'm not gonna go 1,000 years from now.
right.
Do you have plans, Miss Chris, of changing gears or changing genre in terms of your future writing?
I think what I really like now, because I've been living and reading the books. What I really like about being there is how everybody's us. They're mixing fiction and non-fiction. I like adventure. Where I can try to mix things. Like, for example, about the Second World War, and the writer just a photograph, a very famous photograph of a woman who collaborated Germans, and for that she was shaved. That was her form of punishment. And the photograph was of her walking through the streets of with her baby from her German lover, and that robot, who was a very famous photographer. But the writer, she created a love story around it. Her love story with the German, which is going to be very complex. She uses a real name. She didn't change her name, but the dates were right. But the love story was fiction.
Okay.
As in, way of playing and being innovative with different genres. So yun lang kasi natutunan here. In France, it's like it's just it just means good writing, good storytelling, and the rest. They don't really go into, okay, this is fiction, non-fiction, this is this is that, this is that. It's not a book to them. It's like good writing and the rest.
Okay, we'll just have a very quick break, and then when we come back for our final segment, we'll do some closing remarks or closing messages from all our guests and resource today. When we go back here at ConverQuestion.
Nandiyan na pala kayo mga best friend. Di ba lahat bago na eh.
Oo.
Kaya huwag tayo pumunta dyan.
Politics mo. Mamaya na yan. Another podcast. Pwede mo ako tawagan sa politics.
Ito pa rin tayo sa ating coffee time. Yan, yung sponsor natin yan. Kasama si best friend Ren. Yan, sponsor ni Ren.
Nandito pa rin tayo sa ating tambayang may programa,
TTPM Act,
our advocacy channel.
Oh, napabangoy kape?
Napabangoy kape? May kape pa ba kayo?
Tuloy na natin ang Coffee with Best Friend Tofi and me.
Ituloy na natin ang Coffee with Best Friend Sophie and me.
Coffee with best friend Sophie and me.
Coffee with Best Friend Tofi with me.
Padayon sa tapangape. Naapa si Best Friend Tofi, oh. Best Friend Tofi, hello!
Guten Tag! Ako po ang inyong Consul General dito sa Frankfurt, Marie-Yvette Banzon Abalos. Tayo ay nandito po ngayon sa tambayang may programa para sa mga Filipino at Filipino-Germans, TTPM Act, our advocacy channel. Tara, OL na tayo!
Tara, OL tayo!
And we're back here at ConverQuestion with Miss Criselda Yabes, Mr. Renato Tranquilino, and our student guest audience here, Miss Bernice Biando. Siguro, as we conclude this ConverQuestion discussion for this afternoon, I would like to hear, unahin natin si Bernice. Bernice, what will be your important takeaway from what we've been done so far, Bernice?
Yes, I mean, everything naman po na pag-usapan talagang, I mean, rich and the idea of course, information. And well, I've been entertained all throughout. If there's a take that I would say na nakuha ko all throughout this conversation, one thing is the idea of just doing whatever you love, whatever platform you wanted to, and of course, whatever thing that you really wanted to tell. I mean, at the end of the day, being a writer means telling a story, and we have ways and means to really showcase that ability. And every one of us is a writer of our own. And it's just that it takes a little bit of creativity and passion, of course, to really do whatever we want to out. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Bernice. Would you like to promote something from your part? Pero bang gusto i-share, promote, or something?
Ako, yeah, just pwede po ba magsabi ng deal? Charot, hindi, Emmy. But yeah, we've been working on something at hive.blog. I have my team right now, and at the same time po, like yun naman yung page ng Papa John's. And I've been working with them right now. So yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Bernice. Okay, let's go to Sir Renato. Sir Renato, ano po ba ang inyong magiging advice to potential or aspiring writers? I'd like to continue to inspire them to, of course, appreciate what you've been doing, specifically authoring books like what you've been doing. Sir Renato?
Well, I think for aspiring writers, I mean, all I can say is like when you start a story, finish it. You know, there's no point in like you can delay it, but eventually you need to finish it. I think that's the first step. And I guess I hope that like the stories that they take from my book will inspire them to write more Pinoy sci-fi, because it is a unique genre of its own, and it's something that we can certainly offer to the world. That's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, Renato. It's your time po to promote your book, sir. One more time to everybody watching us.
Hey, Fate of a Distant Future. It's going to be out on Fully Booked, but it's also available from Amazon and 8letters.com. So if you get it, yeah, and enjoy.
All right. Fate of a Distant Future from our very own Mr. Renato Tranquilino. And of course, Miss Criselda Yabes. Final words po to all our viewers, mga ka-best friends, lahat po ng mga taong nanonood sa atin all over the world. Miss Chris?
Well, basically I'm here now sa Frankfurt. If ever I have to talk about it, would be my latest book, which is called Barcelona. It's thin. It's just 114 pages. You don't really like long readings. This is something to think about, because it's of me about where our country should be heading to. I turned it into fiction. So, grab it from Avenida Books, and it's available in Shopee. later in the bookstores. Hindi ko lang alam kung anong bookstores.
Oh, what can you advise to our what what can you advise to our aspiring writers or even book authors who would like to begin a book like you?
Writing, even just having a piece of paper and a pen with you. If there's something inside you, just write it. Don't worry about grammar or word or vocabulary out of you. Just bring it out there. Put it on paper.
All right, that will be it. Thank you very much, Miss Criselda Yabes, Mr. Renato Tranquilino, and Miss Bernice Biando. And recap, just to recap for what we have been today, it's a day for us to realize how important writing is in our life. Whenever I teach creative writing in my class, I would always like to start by teaching them the 4 M's of writing. And I would like to start with the first M, that is motivation. That's why I always ask our facilitators or our resource today, what is your important motivation to write a book? It will be your gasoline. It will be something that will fuel you up. So find that motivation. The second M would be the mood. Mood is very important to me. When you write, it's something that you have to get. Either you tune in some music, or you get to face a wall, or maybe something green. Anything that would make your mood something for you to write on is something also very important. And the third M is the material. Just like what Miss Chris and Sir Nat is telling you, you have to have that pen. You have to have that paper for you to write. You have to have whatever. If you have your laptop, your tablet, as long as something that you can physically write on, you have to have it because that is your instrument. And the fourth M is the methodology or the method. These are the things that you learned, the skill of writing. That's why it's not just being a writer, just being inspired. It's also learning how to write proper sentences, grammar, structure, and how to put in proper paragraphs, and how to observe such margins. All of this, because these are so important.
And
in
there's a
writing.
fifth one. There's a fifth one, and it's a very important one.
What's the big one, sir?
M for money. There's still money in books.
Oh!
So do it.
All right. Okay, thank you. I'll add that, sir. Money. Okay. Thank you very much. And thank you for being with us today, to all our best friends, mga ka-best friend natin dito sa ating tambayan here sa ating advocacy channel, TTPM Act. And this is brought to you by TTPM Act, and also our regular Sunday Tara OL Tayo, to the entire Filipino community and to all our ka-best friend, lahat ng mga nanonood, sumusupport sa atin. Thank you very much for having us. Thank you, Miss Chris. Thank you, Sir Renato. And thank you, Miss Bernice.
Thank
and this is
you.
another version of ConverQuestion. Till then, have a nice day, everybody.